now my pleasure to introduce one of our two poetry mentors for this year, Ethelbert Miller. Ethelbert is the author of 8 collections of poetry, including How We Sleep on the Nights We Don't Make Love and Where Are the Love Poems for Dictators. He is also the author of the memoirs Fathering Words and The Fifth Inning, and the editor of numerous anthologies, including In Search of Color Everywhere. He is the director of the African American Resource Center at Howard University, board chair of the Institute for Policy Studies, a board member of the Writers' Center in Bethesda, and editor of Poet Lore. A literary activist, the Washington Post named Ethelbert the most influential person in the DC arts community. He is also a tireless mentor to writers, as the group has had the pleasure of discovering. Even before this residency with him began, Ethelbert reached out to the writers in the group, emailing and Skyping not only with poets, but with prose writers as well. An archivist himself, he has filed the works and letters of writers he has worked with over the years. As an example, he shared this morning, when Rita Dove's house burned down to the ground several years ago, Ethelbert was able to replace years' worth of original family newsletters and other documents. And he admitted that new files have been started this weekend. And until now, I never could have imagined saying to the Mentor Series group, I'm glad there's a file on you in Washington, D.C., but I am. In the seminar this morning, Ethelbert told the group, I write to be of service to my family, my community, my country. He encouraged the group to think of who comprises their literary family. Who are the grandparents and parents who have provided inspiration, the siblings who have grown along with us. How lucky this group is to have Ethelbert as part of their literary family, and how fortunate we all are tonight to have him as part of our community. Please welcome Ethelbert Miller.
You don't have to worry about those files in Washington because the world is coming to an end tomorrow. So you don't have to worry about your emails or anything else. Very happy to be here, and thank you for your work. Wonderful people I've met. This is one of my favorite cities. I think many people know that. I'll begin by dedicating my first poem. I'll select a baseball poem, and I'll dedicate it to Harmon Killebrew, a great baseball player. Even though I'm a New York Yankees fan, my life is filled with the names of baseball players that growing up I just love to say their names. You know, Killebrew, Bill Mambu Kett, who pitched for the Red Sox. But here in Minnesota, names that became ones that I admire, Puckett, Tony Oliva, Rod Carew. These are great players, and this is a great city. But my life was changed by a baseball player who still makes me mourn. That's Bill Mazeroski. And this is Bill Mazeroski returns home from the World Series. When I was a kid, I told my old man that I would make a name for myself like Walter next door, who had a hit record on the radio for 2 weeks and then enlisted and got himself shot. I want people to forget Eisenhower. I want them to remember my swing, the way I touched third and headed home to every fan in the world. If you look at the footage, this is something that's lost. That was when you could run out onto the field, you know, and it was just, you celebrated with the players, you know, and that's something that's gone. I remember one of the championship World Series, as soon as it was getting to the last inning, the mounted police showed up, you know, and that was completely different from the time when baseball was the American pastime. Yesterday was the birthday of Malcolm X, who I call not Malcolm X, but El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. I say that because that is Malcolm's name. We don't call Muhammad Ali Cassius Clay. Why do we call Malcolm X, and not El Hajj Malik El Shabazz? What I did with Malcolm's life is I reduced it down to 3 short poems. You can do that if you're a writer and not a biographer. So Manny Marable left us with 500 pages. I mean, hey, 3 poems, Manny, it's quicker. And I selected 3 points of transition in Malcolm's life. August 1952, when he comes out of prison. 1964 when he takes his Hajj. 65 when he is assassinated. Malcolm X, August 1952. I suppose I should be grateful to the white man letting me out. Where can a black man go in America go? I stand with the prison in my shadow. Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we are not thieves. We are the lost ones who have been stolen. Allah bless my tongue as it prepares to heal. There are so many who are in need of the message. I find this country changing. The cross, no longer ours to bear. Malcolm X, 1964. There are so many Muslims in the world, so many, all colors. I am one, trying to be one. There is so much to see and learn. Once I submitted to my own ignorance. Once I submitted to a man I believe was divine. Now a new journey begins with myself. I make the Hajj. I embrace my soul. There is no God but Allah. Malcolm X, February 1965. I will die this month. How? I do not know. Still, there is much work to be done. I am afraid not for myself, but for Betty and the girls. Some nights I stay awake, looking out the window, a gun in my hand. I know how cruel people can be. I have known hatred and blindness. There are brothers waiting to do me harm. I will die for them. I will love them as only I can. May Allah be my witness. So Malcolm X, El Hajj Malik El Shabazz. One of the things I was talking about earlier to the students and writers here, my colleagues, my friends, was the challenge of writing poems, my Omar poems. And I wrote these poems about a little boy who I created growing up because of the changing demographics in our society. Islam is a strong presence in our community. And so I have these youngsters. I'll read 3 of these Omar poems. The Equator. So what's that line around your nose, the equator or something? I'm in the playground sitting next to Omar, and in between him and Natalie. She's the new girl with the old clothes who moved into the corner house 1 month ago. What you talking about, she squeaks. Her voice has that little girl sound like she could sing high notes and maybe call herself Mariah, but she's just Natalie from down the street. Why are you staring at my nose? You just a silly looking boy with one of them Muslim hats on your head. You shouldn't be looking at me. Why should I let you look at me? Why? You tell me why. I'm between Omar and Natalie, and this is what my mama means when she says, if you make your bed, you gotta lie in it. Or maybe this is just a hard place and the rock is here too. I don't know. It was me who decided not to do my homework. So here I am, listening to Omar trying to talk all smart and talk about geography like he knows where he is. Omar don't know nothing about no equator. You can't see the equator, fool, I tell him. You just want to mess with Natalie's nose. In between my words, her tears gather like clouds coming from behind the big buildings and telling us it's time to go. But it's Natalie's crying which makes me shiver. She stutters and tries to find her own rain of words. My daddy broke my nose when I was small because I didn't stop crying. He broke my nose and it left a mark. Natalie's words catch Omar and me like we were running, and now we both out of breath. Omar pushes me out the way and puts his arm around Natalie's shoulder like he's the equator. I guess this was the right thing to do if we added our ages together. Sometimes Omar does things I wish I could do. Sometimes just see things I'm too young to see. Looking for Omar. I'm in the school bathroom washing my hands without soap, but I'm still washing my hands. I turn the water off and look for a paper towel, but paper towels have been gone since the first day of school, and it's June now. I start to leave the bathroom with my wet hands, but then the big boys come in talking loud and cussing like they rap stars or have new sneakers. I hear the one named Pinto talk about how someone should get Omar after school since he's the only Muslim they know. Pinto talks with an accent like he's new in the neighborhood too. I don't have to ask him what he's talking about, since everybody's talking about the towers and how they ain't there no more. My mama said it's like a woman losing both breasts to cancer. And my daddy was talking at the dinner table about how senseless violence is, and Mrs. Gardner next door lost 2 tall boys to drive-bys. Bullets flying into both boys' heads, making them crumble too. Everybody around here is filled with fear and craziness, and now Pinto and the big boys thinking about doing something bad. I stare at my wet hands dripping water on my shoes and wonder if I should run and tell Omar or just run. I feel like I'm trapped in the middle of one of those Bible stories, but it ain't Sunday. I hear my mama's voice saying, boy, always remember to wash your hands, but always remember you can't wash your hands from everything. And this is an Omar poem from a forthcoming collection. This is totally made up. Not to say the others weren't. I like the Matrix, so this is tied in with that. The One. So me and Omar are walking to the movies to see the new Matrix movie when Natalie comes running around the corner talking about white folks. She's running like she's Trinity, but we don't know that yet because our money is stuck deep inside our pockets jingling with our keys. Omar stops and strikes his neo pose, like he's not a Muslim, but instead he's the one. What are you talking about, Natalie? Catch your breath and just say one word at a time. Natalie stops and looks at both of us like we Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, maybe Kobe and Shaq. Well, maybe not. White folks moving in the neighborhood, Natalie shouts. Where are they coming from? Omar finds his serious looks and asks Natalie where she thinks the white folks be coming from. They coming from everywhere, Natalie mumbles. They moving into our neighborhoods and we moving out. What's up with that? But where are these white folks coming from, Omar asks. Natalie shakes her head and swears she don't know. Then Omar looks at me and says, you think someone is catching white folks and bringing them here like Africans? You think maybe some white folks be getting up somewhere and decide to get their groceries for the day and then whoop, they be moving into the house next door carrying credit cards instead of chains? Natalie says the next white person she sees, she's gonna ask to see their papers. What papers, I ask? You know, their papers. Papers that say, this is so-and-so, and you belong to so-and-so, so you let them pass, so you know so-and-so is okay. So what you think about that? I think you crazy, Nat, I say. We ain't gonna ask no white person to see their papers. White folks got all the ID they need. You blind, you can't see it. Omar says maybe we don't need to go see the Matrix. Maybe the Matrix is right here and we in it. I tell Omar someone needs to unplug his head. The next thing he'll be saying is Muslims can fly and don't need no airplanes. Omar's can be all Quran at times. Sometimes he walks around with just one book trying to explain everything. Can you explain white folks, I ask? Maybe Natalie is right. Maybe we should ask to see their papers. What do you want to see a white piece of paper for, Omar said. We should just get our notebooks and make observation. Maybe so, I say. I know sometimes when I pass white folks, they don't say anything to me. They don't look at me. They don't even see me. I'm just invisible, like maybe they own the Matrix and we just going to the movie to see it. I'm stuck on this corner with Omar and Natalie. The phone isn't ringing, but my head is. I'm trying to make sense out of this, but more than one day, I'll be able to make bullets stop. Everything else today seems impossible. Going to read some left poems. I remember when June Jordan was living, and we were doing a reading together, and I said, I'm gonna read some old love poems, June, and she said, what do you mean old love poems? And then she said, I read after you. I always remember that. Wings and Things. I looked for you there, and now I find you here. I wanted to love you then, like I want to love you now. I need you close and not far. I need to be inside, not outside. I keep looking for your door. I keep jumping out my window. It's so foolish, but my wings are horny for your beauty. I'm a strange bird looking for a nest. Let's fuck before we fly. This is for my friend Naomi. Why is it Greek omelet and not Puerto Rican? I'm still trying to figure that out. Every morning, I look for you on the menu. Where are your eyes and lips, my side order of thighs? I'm so hungry for the sauce of you and the way your blouse opens like a flame. If you ever come to New York, not New York, if you ever come to D.C., New York has its own statue. If you come to D.C., there's a statue of the head of Neruda that's across town. It's fascinating, by the OAS building. Neruda, This is also for Naomi. Neruda's head is across town. It's in the garden outside the OAS building. I need to go there. No, I need to find what they did to the rest of Neruda's body. Where are Neruda's hands, legs, feet? Did someone believe Neruda's poems came only from his head? What does one make love with? Bring me Neruda's poems. Ask them to confess. Okay, let me read this. We're talking about fundraising. I represent a lot of organizations. I go to a lot of meetings. I hate going to meetings. So I wrote this poem, Meetings. You know, you both do fundraising. Yeah, how many of you do fundraising? Yeah, right, okay. This is an interactive poem. You'll get this one. Think of meetings. I'm sitting in another meeting where people are talking about money. They call this fundraising. We spend the time talking about people who have money. We mention names of people we don't know. This is what you do when you don't have money. You talk about people who do. Before the meeting ends, there is agreement among everyone to contact 3 people who have money. I leave the meeting knowing I won't make any calls. I walk down the street talking to myself. At the bus stop, I search my pockets for money. This too is fundraising. When the bus arrives, all the poor people board. I'm on my way to another meeting. The poor people are going to work. A guy sitting in front of me is yelling on his cell phone. He's talking about money. He says, I don't give a fuck. I want my fucking money. This too is fundraising. You know that's true. Let me just read a few more poems. I wrote this poem after developments in Iran. This is called The Women. This is what will happen to the women. This is what will happen to mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and grandmothers. This is what is probably happening now. Some of the women will be arrested. Some of the women will return home and be warned. Some of the women will stay in prison. Some of the women will be in prison for hours. Some of the women will be in prison for days. Some of the women will be in prison for months. Many women will forget they are in prison. Some of the women will be blindfolded. Some of the women will be tortured. Some of the women will be raped. Some will confess to truth. Some will confess to lies. Some will simply confess. Other women will cover their faces. Other women will cover their hair. Other women will cover their lives. This is what happens to mothers. This is what will happen to our sisters. This is what happens to aunts. This is what will happen to our daughters. There are many grandmothers who are silent. There are many grandmothers praying in the back of mosques. There are too many grandmothers swaying in sorrow. This is what happens to mothers, daughters, sisters, aunts, and grandmothers. This is what many men in the world witness. This is what many men give birth to. Let me read some short poems, because I said early in the day that when I started out writing, I could read all my poems, and then we would have the end of the world, and we would all do whatever we have to do after. But these are poems that, very short poems, I wrote when I was at the Sea Chain Cottage in Provincetown. I had this little wonderful offer from the Jerome Foundation. I grew up with shows before Oprah. There was The Millionaire. Remember that show? That was better than Oprah. The guy would show up, you would be in need, and he would show up. And you never saw who the millionaire was, he was in a chair, I think it was like maybe Gates or Trump, who knows. But anyway, what happened is I grew up with that. And all of a sudden I go and, check my emails in the spam. Always check your spam. I just started doing that. And all of a sudden, there was this letter from the Jerome Foundation saying, Mr. Miller, we like your work, and would you like a cottage for a month? And would you like a stipend to go with that? I said, I think so. And so or if I went. And I wrote these short poems in terms of images that I saw. The Soulless Souvenir. A store on Commercial Street. Many Buddhas in the window. A tourist stops and looks for a path. There's only one doorway. When clouds undress. The painters are out today. Easels near the beach. Brushstrokes under a nude sky. News. Cheese, crackers, lunch in the cottage. The New York Times is here. It's Sunday. Where breakfast comes from. After days of smiles, breakfast comes with conversation. From Belarus, she says. She leans against my table, body explaining geography. Saturday at the cottage. I recycle bottles and cans. Dirty clothes I take to the basement. I have only a few things to wash. Read all labels. Happiness comes with instructions. And this last one's the fog. Chips of fog in my hair. Time slowly moving. Mistakes hide everything, then departs. And I end with two last poems. So this is what the living do. And then divine love. So this is what the living do. When did we begin to wear sneakers to funerals or sports jerseys and caps? When did things begin to die? I pass a church 4 blocks from the Safeway. I see the last generation of old black men in suits. These men are professionals. They touch death every day. They carry the coffin and drive the hearse. They arrange the flowers and offer comfort. They escort you into limos and tell you where to sit. They know the directions to the cemetery. What do you know? I know that I am dying. Dreams first are what you might call the lint of disappointment. It has always been this way, this knowing, the realization that I will do this alone. I once believed in love the way I believed in beauty, the living with dignity, style, and grace. I thought my shoes always needed to be polished whenever I left the house. There is a way the day ends after you pass a funeral, how you walk down the street afraid to look over your shoulder. They say, this is what the living do. And I end with what is my signature poem, a poem that actually has its home here in the Twin Cities. It's called Divine Love. And I wrote this poem for Alex and Sujina, and it's for their wedding. And I always close with this poem. And this poem is an outgrowth of technology. You know where you have your signature on your emails? And what happens is I would always close my emails. I would have loved you like Ellington loved jazz and Bearden loved scissors. And I started corresponding. And I started corresponding with Elizabeth Alexander. And she would write back, I love you like Zora loves such and such. And we're going back and forth. And then I was putting it together. And then when Alex and Sujin got married, I put the poem together for them. But I added a line that's not in this version. I added, I love you more than Minnesota loves the Twins. So it was here. Or maybe we say, but Minnesota loves the Vikings. you never know. Divine love. I wish I had loved you many years ago. I would have loved you like Ellington loved jazz and Bearden loved scissors. I would have loved you like Langston loved Harlem and the blues loved Muddy Waters. I would have loved you like Douglas loved to read and Garvey loved parades. I would have loved you like Zora loved stories and Du Bois loved suits. I would have loved you like Lewis loved boxing and Mahalia loved to sing. I would have loved you like Carver loved peanuts and Wheatley loved poems. I would have loved you like Jimmy loved Lorraine and Ozzy loved Ruby. I would have loved you like Martin loved Jesus and Malcolm loved Allah. Thank you.